And staying with that story, Minister of International Relations Dr. Naledi Pandor says countries must continue to push for a ceasefire in Gaza and the two-state solution where Israel and Palestine will live side by side. Minister Pandor, who was briefing the media in Pretoria, said the International Court of Justice had issued crucial measures to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza. South Africa dragged Israel to the World Court in an effort to try and force a ceasefire in Gaza. Now, Pandor says South Africa's cabinet is of the view that Israel has violated its obligations under the Genocide Convention. She says South Africa will do all in its power to ensure implementation of the court's order. Meanwhile, Israel's bombardment is continuing in Gaza.
We are experiencing a pushback with the announcement that Israel will not import grapes from South Africa. I think they will be the loser because our grapes are really delicious. But also an apparent pushback by saying there'll be no flights from their airline. Well, I think those flights were not often very loaded with passengers. So I think it's an economic decision rather than a consequence of the ICJ ruling. The other concern is with some of the proposed resolutions in the United States House of Representatives. And there I think the diplomatic work must continue because, as we all know, America is one of the countries that often insists on the practice of democracy and the sovereign right to pursue a country's own foreign policy, but also articulates respect for global institutions such as the United Nations and its institutions such as the International Court of Justice. So when you've had that expression of support for such bodies, you can't, when it is against you, object to their rulings or their very existence. So given the powerful stature of the United States of America, we would hope that it will respect the ICJ and call for adherence to its findings and thus call for a ceasefire as speedily as possible and access to humanitarian aid for the people of Palestine.
Israel is saying the court didn't pronounce in relation to ceasefire and therefore they have a right to continue with bombardment.
Well, the court, the first ruling was that killings of the group should stop. I don't know how you can stop killing without a ceasefire. The ruling said that humanitarian aid must flow. How will it flow when there's bombardment? So you read into the decision of the court the fact that there has to be a ceasefire in order for its orders to be implemented. It's clear that if we don't have a ceasefire, Israel would be in breach of the findings of the court.
You spoke about the issue of bringing more evidence ahead of Israel's report to the ICJ. Can you elaborate on that? Are you saying currently South Africa is monitoring what's happening and you are going to make more submissions, or this will be later during the hearing of the merits of the case?
I think we must be in continuous contact with the court to express our concern when we see no action in response to the provisional measures. I think having brought the case, South Africa has a duty to continue to speak to the concerns. And everyone is aware that since the ICJ set out the measures, the killings have continued. Aid is not flowing. In fact, the position of the Palestinian people is worsening by the day. A catastrophe, as the Secretary General of the United Nations has said, consistently is occurring before our very eyes. And the intention of the ICJ was to stop this catastrophe and give us an opportunity to pause the atrocious actions that are underway against the people of Palestine.
And finally, Minister, there are reports that Iran has been involved in terms of assisting with financial resources, either the governing party or the legal team. What's your reaction to this new noise around the role of Iran?
Well, I would say even respectable people use fake news, because this is totally someone's figment of imagination, or it is mischief to attempt to cast South Africa in a bad light, because we have successfully taken a case to the International Court of Justice against very powerful forces that are supportive of Israel and its conduct toward the Palestinian people. And having succeeded, South Africa becomes the butt of fake news and total lies.